You're listening to The Grip, where we take hold of mindset and martial arts. Now, let's get started. Today's guest is a true trailblazer in the martial arts world and beyond. She first stepped onto the mats in 1977 at just 15 years old, beginning her Kenpo karate journey under professional kickboxer Sharky LaCroix. Under his guidance, she trained in kickboxing, boxing, and Kenpo, eventually becoming not only Sharky's very first black belt, but also his first female black belt. Along the way, she proved her skills in competition, winning karate tournaments in point fighting and katas. Her passion and dedication never stopped there. She went on to train under Barry Barker at Poway Martial Arts in California, and today she is a 6th-degree karate professor. She's also a certified USA boxing coach and owner of the Lubbock Boxing Club in Texas, where she's been sharing her love for martial arts and boxing with her community for the past 17 years. In recognition of her impact, she was honored with the 2004 Hall of Fame Instructor of the Year award. Beyond the dojo, she has built an impressive and multifaceted career, earning a degree in legal secretary, becoming a Feng Shui certified consultant, and serving her community as treasurer of the West Texas Association of USA Boxing, and as a member of the St. Clair Assisi Parish Council. With nearly 5 decades in martial arts, she's also a devoted wife, a proud mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Her faith, family, and lifelong dedication to martial arts continue to inspire everyone around her. Please welcome to the podcast, Rosie Sumpter, or as most of you know her as, Ms. B.
Hi, Kaylee.
Welcome on, Ms. B.
This is so exciting. Oh, my God.
Absolutely. I was just dying to ask you on the podcast, and I'm super excited because you were my first female on the podcast. So once again, trailblazer for us women. But I just got to start off by saying you're one of the very first people that came to mind to have on here because you were such a huge impact in my life, and I know you are in so many other, not just women's lives, but many athletes. And so I'm just super excited to dive in and get to know you a little bit more because like I said, you've just been such a light in so many people's lives. So, you ready for it?
God bless. I am. I'm here. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start. So, I understand that you started your martial arts journey as a teenager. But first, before we get into that, can you just tell me a little bit about your early childhood?
Well, I remember I was about 5 or 6 years old. I grew up with a lot of cousin boys, so I was such a tomboy. And one time my mom had this Ringer washing machine, and she told me, get away from there. And I'm like, okay. I stuck my hand, and my right arm went all the way through the Ringer. I was screaming and yelling and all this. Anyways, I had this huge scar on my arm. Huge. It's practically the size of my arm. You know, kids were brutal back then. I'm sure they still are now. But so I got picked on a lot. I got made fun of. And that really brought a different sense of energy in me because I decided that I didn't want people to judge me by my arm. I wanted them to judge me or at least want to be friends with me because I was a good person and all that. So I was very competitive. And I remember one time we were in line and the 2 captains would pick who they wanted. I was always the last one. Plus, I was so small, right? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to show them that they need to pick me first. And we started playing games, during recess or whatever. And I was the best one. I just made sure. So then eventually I got to be picked first. And, I had to wear like a long sleeve shirt during hot weather. I still wore the long sleeve shirt because I didn't want to be made fun of. I didn't want to be judged by that. So I think that's like the biggest thing that has happened in my life. And I really believe because of that really made me a different person. I could have just, cried and, I'm sure my mom would have told me to get over it. Just go do what you got to go do. But I think that really changed me on who I am today. I just don't let things bother me, as such. So, anyways, that's like my big story that I share with
Yeah,
people
for
because that's
sure.
really important.
Yeah. And something to
Yeah.
experience at such a young age, but it sounds like what built your journey in how to build resilience and kind of move forward, because that's not
Right.
always easy,
Right.
especially as a little, what you probably had to have been like in kindergarten when that happened.
That's very true. It was Miss Anderson's class. I remember her. Bless her heart. She's a good teacher. But yeah, it definitely helped me overcome a lot of things. A lot of things. So I still have the scar, except it's now smaller. But yeah,
Where did you grow up, Miss B?
I'm originally born in Jordanton, Texas, so it's on the other side of San Antonio, and then we moved to West Texas when I was 11. So I matured. Uh, pretty quickly, and I was 4'11 and a half. And to this day, I'm 4'11 and 3/4. So I grew out just a little bit more. But I grew up in West Texas, pretty much graduated high school, got married, had kids, and then eventually moved. But yeah, good old West
Very
Texas.
good. And who's we? So it sounds like you lived with your mom, and you said
I have
cousins.
siblings,
It
my
was
mom and dad. I really didn't have any relatives here, in
uh
West Texas. They were all out of San Antonio. But I had friends. We had friends, and I started martial arts when I was in West Texas, when I was here in Levelland.
okay. And that was Kenpo karate, correct? In 1977, you're 15. So what first drew you into martial arts as a teenager?
I'm kind of embarrassed to say I wanted to learn how to fight. I just
Okay.
wanted to learn how to fight. And I remember seeing this girl, Sherry Harmon. I had come in from playing volleyball, and I looked over to the wall, and she was doing this stretch. She was standing straight, and one leg was way over here, and one leg was on the ground, and somebody was stretching her. And I thought, whoa, 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 whoa! I said, why are you stretching? Where did this come from? She goes, oh, well, I take Kempo karate, and I said, oh, I want to do that. So the competitive part of me kicked in, and then sure enough, I really wanted to learn how to fight. I mean, and I'm not sure if it was competitively or whatever, but I just wanted to, and I don't know if I can say this on your podcast. I just wanted to be badass. That's what
Yeah,
that's what I want. You know, I was a little
absolutely.
rebel, little Mexican rebel. And but I
Sure.
got I got humbled right away after 6 months of sparring. I got humbled. So yeah, so that's where I
When
originally got that idea from.
Okay. So saw somebody super flexible and then you're like, okay, flexible and badass. This is right up my alley. I got
Yeah,
to try this out.
yeah. It's kind of a weird combination, but I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to do that. Then
Sure.
I overpassed her. She stayed there for a little bit, and it was just me and her. We were the only two girls, and there was a lot of sundown roughnecks, a lot of guys from sundown. And I at least I felt like I had no business there, like that. That's how they treated me, and I changed that. I'm like, oh no, you're not going to challenge me. So I remember when Sharky would tell us, okay, I need, 100 push-ups. All right, I'm gonna do 150. Took me forever, but I did it. Same thing with the kicks. Well, we're gonna do 400 kicks. I made sure I did 500. But I earned it. I for sure earned it. Anyways, I ended up passing Sherry, and she got to orange, I guess, and I eventually passed her up. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
When do you think that started? Do you think that started at the young age, just out in recess, where you felt like, okay, that initial feeling of, I don't like being picked last, and had that inner belief in yourself and realized, like, okay, well, I got to show these people there's only one way to do it. And so it sounds like right away when you got into it as a teenager, you realized that you got to not only do what's asked of you, but then saw the benefits of doing even more or extra, and how that probably grew you as an athlete, but also as a student too.
That's very true. I didn't want to be judged just because I was a young teenager. I didn't want to be judged like that. If I can't do what you can do, then okay, so be it. I'll bow out, but don't judge me,
Hmm.
let me prove myself. And, um,
Were most
I
of
had
the
that obstacle
people
and I did.
were most of the people in the classes, the karate classes, adults?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was an adult
Okay.
class, and there was about, I'm gonna say about 10, 8 to 10, big roughnecks. They worked in the oil field, and they were in class, And then here I come, not even 5 feet, thinking I'm going to own the floor. But I mean, I was part of the group. I was a team player. But the minute that I felt that they're like, whatever, what, she's going to kick me. So I just made it work. Don't judge me like that. If I can't do your job, if I can't do the same thing you're doing, then so be it. But yeah,
Sure.
it was definitely challenging. Yeah.
What did your mom say when
Yeah.
you decided, oh, hey, I'm going to try this out? Was she like, what the heck? Or, okay, here we go. Didn't surprise her?
My mom was like, whatever. My dad said, I'm not going to pay for it. If you want to, you're going to have to earn it. So I was a waitress at the time. So I saved my tips. And at the time, Sharky charged like $45 a month or something. So I take him all my tip money. And that's how I paid for it. There was times that I couldn't pay for it. So he would let me help in teaching the little kids classes. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I remember one time I came home. We had just got through working out and we had these x-rays, these blank x-rays that Sharky had. And one person would hold it and you would just snap the kicks. Pop, 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 right? And I was so tired. But I remember we would do 500 off each leg. So my reaction was fast. And I came home one day from working out and my dad had this glass of orange juice. And I walk in there and he goes, oh, did you do your hi-ya, and sticks his leg up trying to kick me? I backed up, I kicked his hand and dropped the orange juice. And I immediately dropped to my knees, apologizing. I'm so sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. And he's just laughing. And thank God he didn't get mad at me. But my reaction was just fast. And I was exhausted after those kicks. But once
Started to become
I
natural.
saw his leg come up, yes. And then they never gave me a hard time. Never. Not after that. Not after
They
that.
probably
So.
looked at you like, oh, our daughter is maybe a little badass.
Yeah. My dad holding up his collar. Oh, yeah. My knee. I forgot about that story. Yeah. But
I love
I mean, they
that.
were supportive in a different way. You know what I mean? They just.
Sure. So,
Yeah.
you starting in the 70s, I would imagine classes and just the culture around martial arts is so different. I mean, you've gotten to see it just evolve over the decades. So what was class structure like back then?
For martial arts, you usually enter the class. It was tradition that whenever you came into the door, you would bow. And that was just out of respect for those who trained in martial arts. It wasn't spiritual or anything like that. It was just out of respect. We would warm up, line drills, jumping rope, we'd stretch out. There was a lot more stretching involved than there is now. And then we had curriculum. So as a beginner, you're classified as a white belt, right? And then you have curriculum. And then there are basics and techniques. And the word kenpo means, ken means fist, po means law. So you can't say po law. You got to, fist law. You got to say the law of the fist. So that's what kenpo means. So I'm going to do it this way. And then karate means empty hand, right? So the hand goes like this. So that's what kenpo is. It's just like that. So kenpo itself is a striking art, and it's a lot of striking, and it teaches a lot of multiple angle attacks. And when we would learn techniques, like self-defense techniques, and they were categorized by the severity of attack. So if they came from the front, or if they came from the back, or if they came sideways, or they came out of 45. And they were very basic, just very basic. And you would practice, and then you would get tested on it. So it's like math. The more times you do it, the better you got, right? The better you were able to apply it. It's not like spelling where you memorize the moves. You can't do it. Because now you're receiving a curriculum for your next belt. So then you get tested for your new curriculum and then your old curriculum. And then you get a new belt, then you get more curriculum, and then it's a progression. So that format didn't really change much, that I think of. And then at the end, there was always like the strengthening and, the sit-ups and the squats and stuff. Now, they didn't make it very fun. It just wasn't fun, so you really needed to want to be there, like the discipline. Over the years that I've taught it, I always make sure it's fun. It's got to be fun, or else
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to come back. And it
Sure.
wasn't very personal. It wasn't very personal. So I don't even remember half those people's names other than Sherry because she was my friend. But it just
Sure.
wasn't, I mean, how do I explain? When if you just went in there, did your business, and that was it. Now it's
Right.
a lot more friendlier, I guess.
Yeah. And so it sounds like maybe wasn't as much of that culture or community involved within that. It was people coming in, grinding it out, and then heading out. So when
Right.
you're following
For
this
sure.
curriculum and as you're working your way through, I'm not sure how old you were when you got your black belt, and especially as his first female black belt, can you tell me just generally what that meant to you? And is that something that you were expecting? Like, did you have to test out to receive that then?
Yes. It took me about 12 years to get my black
Okay.
belt. But in between there, I got married and I had two beautiful kids, Joshua and Jessica. And so while I was teaching, as I was a brown belt teaching, the kids were there with me. The kids, I'd give them their little happy meals and they'd have to sit there and watch me teach. And I have to give Sharky a shout out, my original instructor. He never gave up on me. Never. There was times that I couldn't pay. Finally, he would come in and ask me to go work for him and help teach the kids classes. And in trade, I could learn. So he just never gave up on me. The kids were there. I was 27 because it took about 12 years. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay,
it
yeah.
was on and off, but it was still consistent because I had to honor Sharky as well, for not giving up on me. So,
Yeah. Do
yeah.
you remember, was there a defining moment in training, whether it was early on or later on in your training experience, where you thought, this is where I belong? This is a passion of mine that is going to carry through with me, not just once I receive my black belt, but for life.
When I tested for my black belt, Parker Linnegan came down from San Diego, California, and Parker was Sharky's instructor, and he sat on the board. And with Sharky, we did a lot of sparring, a lot, kickboxing and boxing, and then we incorporated martial arts too. And I knew I could fight, because I had to spar all the guys and stuff. I knew that. But it was definitely challenging because I didn't know what to expect. If I had seen another black belt test, I would, okay, well, this is what I got to do. This is what I have to do. And I got to be. So I did the best that I could without knowing what that test was going to be like. And I have to admit, it was challenging. I didn't get a lot of support from family members in that sense. But that's part of my life at that time. I earned my black belt. And then once I realized that I could do this and still be married and have kids, I thought, I'm going to go back to school. So I signed up with South Plains College in Levelland. And then things started shifting because at that point I had 4 part-time jobs. I worked part-time at Pizza Hut. I worked part-time at a daycare center so I could get a discount for them watching my kids. I went to school full time at South Plains and I worked for Sharky part time. And then I had this one lady that she had this Borden's milk truck that she would go to all these small towns and she would go to these WIC programs and they would bring in their cards. And then she had bad knees. So she'd pick me up early in the morning and then we would go to all these different little towns and I would be the one up and down in the van taking down the milk and the cheese and the cereal because she couldn't do it and she would pay me cash. And so those four part-time jobs, going to school full-time, I was going through a divorce, and then I wrecked my car. So me and my kids, we just walked everywhere. I was probably in the best shape the best shape ever. You know, so I just knew it. I thought, if I can get my black belt, why can't I get a degree? I could do this. And I did that
Mhm.
for 2 years. I was on the dean's list. Um, yeah,
That's
I thought,
amazing. How did you keep
yeah.
pushing forward during that season of life? Because that, I feel like, even just one or a few of those, challenging spaces that people can get in, whether it's vocationally with having to commit to 4 jobs, raising kids adds a whole other complexity to it, going through a divorce, trying to get a degree and better yourself. How did you manage to keep your head high and push through during that season?
I kept seeing the ultimate goal, you know? I kept seeing, okay, what's gonna happen after this? We ate a lot of pizza, a lot of salads for sure, you know? But I also had my faith, you know? I just knew that God had a bigger plan for me, and I didn't know what it was. And I knew that I was responsible for my own actions. If you want to complain, then fix it. If you want to be better, then find a way to get better. My kids were for sure the ultimate reason that I needed to get out of that marriage, and I needed to provide for them later in life, you know? My
Mm-hmm.
kids were very that was like the number one reason that I needed to continue.
Yeah. So once you got your black belt, can you explain or walk through a little bit of what that like final test was like, since you were the very first one and you maybe necessarily didn't,
Sure.
know what to expect when you walked into this? What was the preparation like, or was it just like, hey, we're going to test you today and let's see how it goes?
Well, I knew that I had to do the curriculum. So white, yellow, orange, we had blue, green, brown. There was about 10 ranks that I was going to have to go through. And there was a lot of katas, a lot of forms, a lot of different types of sparring. Self-defense techniques back then were done from both sides. So you had to do it on the right side, you had to do it on the left side. And a lot of muscle memory with the hands going fast, boom, 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 you know? You definitely had to be in shape for sure, for sure. This was the first open black belt test, meaning that most black belt tests are closed, so only the people that are testing are there. So the parents can't go in there and watch. Family members can't go in there and watch. So I mean, Sharky didn't know any better. He opened it up to the public. So that's more stress, mind you. You know, my mom and dad sitting in the chair, my kids right there, and Josh yelling, "Go, mommy, go!" You know, it was so
Mm,
cute. And I remember training, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week in the studio, apart from everything else that I was doing. I wish I would have known now the actual diet and the cross training and the proper way to do it. I just don't eat bad and drink lots of water. I mean, that's no vitamins, nothing.
sure.
I just wing- winged it, but it
Mm-hmm.
was about 4 or 5 hours, I think. Now he
Wow.
opened it up to other people test. There was other people testing for their rank, but the highlight was me. And
Yeah.
at the beginning of the test, I did a technique, and I took Sharky down and I did a front kick. So I was pulled my toes back and I was kicking with the ball of the foot. Well, when my foot came back, he had turned and I went straight on. So I broke my toe, and then
Oof.
I jammed my elbows. I messed up a knee, and then I jammed a couple of fingers. And I was just hopping around trying to finish the test. And I remember Sharky telling me, he said, well, because he sounds like Mickey from Rocky. Right, right, right. He said,
Mhm.
well, if you don't want to finish the test, we don't have to. And I said, oh, hell no, I am not doing this again. So he said, well, wrap it up. I said, okay. So I just did it. And I remember my toe just throbbing and throbbing. I just taped it up and I'm like, I'm not doing this again. It was a
Mhm.
rough test because I didn't know what to expect. So at
Sure.
the beginning, I just went full force and I
Mhm.
didn't know how to pace myself, but
I'm
I
sure
but
your
I earned
adrenaline
it.
was up. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good test.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you competed too, both in point fighting and in forms. Can you explain
Yes.
what karate competitions involve, and was this kind of throughout your training over the years, or did you really compete at like a certain phase in your life?
I competed more when I lived here in West Texas. I was a black belt at the time. So I competed as a brown belt and a black belt.
Okay.
And point fighting is like a two-minute round, and you have about 3 judges, 5 judges maybe. And it's fast. It goes really fast. So the first point that strikes and makes contact gets the point. So as soon as the main referee sees the point, he calls break, and then he asked for the judges, okay, call for points. And whoever saw that point, that's how it scored. So
Mm.
usually anything above the waist is 2 points. Body is 1 point. Nothing below the legs, unless you're in a certain kind of tournament, then groin shots are allowed. So you got to make at least five. The first one that scores to five wins. It was fast, so it really made you think fast and react fast. I was tiny. I mean, I still am tiny, but I was quick. I'd get in, get out, because I knew as long as the judges would hear me or see it, there was when you competed against Taekwondo people, they always throw kicks above the waist, right? And Kempo people are known for the low kicks. So I had this flip wheel kick that I would just snap it, pop right to the groin area. And that was 1 point for me, right? Well, in those tournaments, you couldn't do that. So my habit was to kick, get the warning, right? And now the other fighter would never bring up their leg high enough to kick me. So I had to be sneaky in that sense, because a lot of them were bigger women, and some of the guys, we competed against the guys too.
Mm-hmm.
So I did really well with that, but I did better in forms, katas. And so in martial arts, katas are like shadow boxing, like when you shadow, right? And you elbows and your knees and all that. That's the same thing. You do a dance-like routine, but it's all based on techniques. So different techniques. And so the emphasis on balance, coordination, the fancier the techniques, the flashier the kicks, the better you're going to get, right? So, or at least you're going to get scored really high. And you have a board of black belts there, and they're watching you compete. And so you become a whole totally different person when you go out there. You got to go out there, you got to be serious. Judges, my name is, you got to be intense. And then you gotta, as soon as you're striking, you gotta make all these cool sound effects, right? And then you finish and you bow and you smile, because you have to become like her, like in a scene, like
Yeah.
you're fighting all these people, and it has to be real to you, or else it just doesn't make sense. And then
Yes.
they have to feel it. They can feel your intensity, your focus. So I did really well back then when I competed in forms. Now then they would give you $50 black belt cash, $100. So I was motivated to do that because it was extra money for me. So
Sure.
they usually
Yeah.
gave you cash. Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen something of the sort. Like, you see some of that in the movies and all that stuff. But I can say for the very first time I saw something kind of traditional, and I know it wasn't at competition level, but was when you had, I think it was your 10-year party, and
Yeah.
your I think for sure it was your kids that went up there, but I can't remember if you went up there with them, but they did practically a whole performance of those movements, right? That
Yes.
was kind of that same representation of forms.
Right.
It was amazing to see, though. That to me, I was like, whoa, this is awesome.
So you have there's katas, and then you have showmanship. The showmanship is when you add music to it, and the music blends with the moves. So that's really big. When you went to Long Beach and up in that area up north in California, there was a lot more showmanship. So you have a lot more of the weapons with the sound effects and then the music and there's a lot of there used to be, I don't know if they do it anymore. There used to be a lot of scouts, I guess, for the movies. They would come out and look at these tournaments and see who had potential, and then they put out flyers. And if you're interested of being a stunt double or something, you could do that. That was really cool.
Awesome.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie Silk Stockings? It was a detective movie. You have to look it up. Okay. Look it up. So there was Carol Schumacher. He was he was a Kempo guy, and he had it was something San Diego, Stunt San Diego. So he would get us all martial arts people together, and he would tell us, hey, I've got something coming up. We need a lot of women, whatever. So a group of the girls got together, and we went at this downtown San Diego in this empty building. The movie was it was a series. It was a detective series, but the lady's name was Mitzi. That's the celebrity and I can't remember their names. I'd have to look it up. But I remember she had in the movie, she was following a criminal. The criminal knocked the gun out of her hand. So they sent her back to training, and we were part of the training. And we were in this building. And I remember we had to be there like at 6:30 in the morning or something. We were in the parking lot, and they had the whole food catered and everything. It was really cool for us. And then we go up in the building, and she had her hair down. We had to put our hair up. If she had her shirt out, we had to tuck it in. And we were the people that were training, so we were hitting stuff, and it was really cool. There was a section where she's fighting this girl. You can hear this whistle. That was me. That was me. Yeah, that was me. I thought my whole face was gonna be on there, but no. But it was $180 or whatever for free. We're part of the union. We were just freebies or whatever. That was fun. I forgot that.
That's really cool.
Oh, and she didn't like us. I mean, she was not nice, not nice. And after she saw what we did, she was like, "Oh, thank you girls for coming." I'm like, whatever. But it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, it was really cool. So that
is cool.
advantages, to have in martial arts. So
Absolutely.
yeah. I forgot about that story.
Do you have any favorite parts or moments that you had just being in competition or within that scene?
As for the actual competition in general, I'm glad I did it. When we moved to California, it was just too expensive. I stopped competing, so I let my kids compete because it was expensive for us. So I just stopped competing in general. So
yeah. So now, after 5 decades of training and teaching, what still excites you when you walk into the gym and just step onto the mats?
I really love seeing the members. I feel like a part of me is there with them. When I walk in through the door, the first thing I do is I see on the floor, oh, who's here? And I thank them. I thank them so much for coming, because they could just take the easy way out and not come in. And I really and truly respect those members that come, because I know what it takes. I know what it takes, and their discipline and their dedication. I'm the first one that's going to support you, but I'm also the first one that's going to call bullshit on you. Don't tell me you can't do this. Oh, you have a bad knee? Okay, we'll do this. I don't know. I love that part. I love that part when I see people here. Yeah. I feel like they trust me. I feel like they love us. They trust us. I feel like a community, like we're strong together. And that's probably the most passionate thing that I love about this, is coming in and seeing people, especially women or little girls. I really put myself in there, in their shoes.
And obviously we're going to dive into it a little bit more, because we are going to talk about what's to come. But, is that something that you just learned over the years, Ms. B? Because I know I came in later in the game, as you've had your gym for, over 10 years. I think we had just started right at maybe your year 9 or 10 there, and it was very clear that you were established, that you had already this massive environment or culture, that you just felt it from the time that you would walk into those doors. It was just, you knew that you were welcome. I knew every day I went in there, I was going to get pushed, but leave and also have a smile on my face in there. And like you said, I respected from such a tiny person of 4'11" 3/4 that you had such grit, And that was inspiring to me as a woman in a very male-dominated field and environment. That was cool to me to see you get in there, and you could see your students had no doubt in you. We all trusted in your ability, and you pushed us. And I think that takes a lot of confidence. And so I guess a main question is, how did that grow over the years? And did you ever experience moments of just self-doubt, or where you were questioning, like, oh gosh, am I capable of doing this?
I remember when I first started teaching, Sharky let me teach the beginners. And I would not walk away from someone doing a fighting stance if they didn't do it. We would spend the whole 30 minutes on just that fighting stance. And he would come around and tell me, it's okay. They're not going to get it. No, that's not the way it is. It needs to be this way, right? And I finally got better understanding how people learn from teaching. From teaching in San Diego, we had so many kids, so many different ages. I researched, I just learned how I wanted to know how the younger kids would learn. I wanted to know how the teenagers would learn, the learning styles and what techniques I could use. And I learned that if you give someone a combination to do or a technique to do or a kick and they're not getting it, it's not their fault. It was on me that I wasn't coming across to them. So then I took it more personal because I felt I let them down. So I would challenge myself to figure out why they weren't picking it up. Or maybe there was a different way I needed to explain it to them, So I felt bad that they weren't getting it. And I felt that was my responsibility. I couldn't put the blame on anybody. It was me. I'm the teacher. But I had to learn their way of learning, their style of learning. And that really helped me throughout this whole time. But at the same time, it still had to be fun. It still has to be fun. People remember how you make them feel. They don't remember what you say. They just remember how you make them feel. And if they weren't learning it, I would explain it to them. I said, no, it's not you. It's me. Let me find another way. And then they would get it. And then just seeing their little lights. Oh, that's how we do it. Yes. We got it. High five, whatever. But I took things more personal because I wanted them to learn. I wanted them, um, I I remember with Sharky. Sharky wasn't very good with detail, but he just made things work. And I couldn't make things work. I had to see him and I had to see the position of his hips. I had to see how he shifted the weight. I had to see the position of the kick, how he landed with an elbow strike for me to really understand it. I'm very hands-on, visual. Don't tell me because it's not going anywhere, So I just think people learn like that. Just it's more real, So
Yeah.
I think that's with me everywhere. And if you have like you and Gavin, right? You were in class. There was things that you could do much better than Gavin, and then there was things that Gavin could do much better than you. You were a lot more technical. You wanted technique. Gavin just wanted to hit the bag. He just wanted to pound that bag, But he was very good and fast. So there's certain things that I needed to work that you could really absorb, embrace, and there was things that Gavin could do that too. And me being able to identify I think that's what makes a good teacher, right? It's just someone that can do that.
Right.
Right.
Adapt for each learner and age. And so for those listening that I'm going to kind of break down what I know, Miss B, but then elaborate more. Okay. So in the
Okay.
gym that you own, and I'm not sure how this evolved class wise, but when I started, you had your kids classes going. You also had various adults classes going, and then you had your fight team off to the side available as well. So what classes do you have now? And did that start right away when you opened the gym, or how has that evolved?
So the kids learn differently, different ages. So I have my tiny titans. Excuse me, they're ages 6 to 8. There's some 5-year-olds that are in there, but depending on their attention span. And then I have junior titans, and that's 9 to 12. And then I have teenagers 13 to 16. And then I have adults 17 ongoing, right? And those are all boxing. I have kickboxing classes, and I open that up 14 to adults. And then if someone has an interest of wanting to spar, I call it play, then they're invited to the B team. The B team is an introduction to sparring. And for the most part, everybody's excited to go, whoever I invite. And once they've done some sparring, they're like, yeah, this might not be my thing. But that's okay. That's how they learn, right? And then if they're really good at it, then they try out for the A team, and that's the competition team. So the main thing is that they're coachable. That's the main thing. And
Yeah.
that's the progression. I don't give belts, I don't give stripes, but I do give them boxing, B team, and then A team if they want to compete.
Sure.
So, and that's part of the retention, you know?
Yeah. And such a good structure or format, I guess, for all levels, and maybe that is why it feels so welcoming. You can come in there and you've never thrown a punch or a kick in your life, or you come in there and you really want to advance in progression, your skill and technique, and see where you can take your fight game. And so it's cool that you have anywhere from the beginner all the way to some of these advanced individuals. So
Yeah, it is. It's a good way to teach the same curriculum, but at their level. If we do push-ups in the Tiny Titans class, we're pushing Lubbock away or something. Or if we do squats and we're jumping, with the squat, it's high-fiving the bag. If we're running, we're doing lap drills. It's running like a cheetah. So depending on the group, that's how you're gonna develop that class or organize that class.
right, a little bit of motivation and fun too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
it's gotta
it.
be fun. It's gotta be fun.
Absolutely.
It's gotta be fun.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously you're a regular in the gym because that's what you're doing day in and day out. And I know you had said, man, if I would have known back in the day some of the ins and outs of fitness and health and all that maybe would have put you at an even, higher level than what you were. So can you explain a little bit about what your fitness routine is like now? Because for anybody that doesn't know, you go into the gym and Miss B is still bouncing off the walls. She's jumping on a tire, doing any kind of drilling with these kids, all the way to a 6'5" adult who wants to throw mitts. And so she is still going and going. And so what keeps the fire alive after all these years?
I think I want to say that I'm a little selfish because if I make them do squats, first it used to be, okay, well, if I'm going to make them do squats, I better back it up, right? Now I'm like, okay, well, I probably need to do about 100 squats today. All right, we're doing squats. Everybody get down. And so I'm a little selfish now. I add that in there. If I want to punch the bag or whatever, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't punched the bag in a while. All right, we're on 2-minute round. Let's go. Give it all you got. I'm a little selfish more now. Back then, I would, if I made you guys kick the bag out how many times, I'd kick the bag with you. I remember too, at the end of every class, it was required that we did 500 sit-ups. That's it. There's no ifs or buts. You were going to do it. I didn't care if we went over. We were going to do it. But now it's a little different because I'm in and out of the office at the front counter. I'm still the primary teacher, but now I have helpers, and they're part of the B team. They have to volunteer 1 hour a week to be part of the B team because if they understand what they've learned, then they can explain it. So holding mitts teaches them eye-hand coordination and gets them faster. So now I teach the kids, but then I'm also teaching the B team how to teach. So It's a double whammy. Sometimes I don't get to work out, but I do my daily walks. I got a treadmill at the house and I do my walks. I can't work out here because people are always, what's Miss B doing? What's she doing? Well, what? So I don't have privacy. So I do walks around the park. I say my prayers. I get on the treadmill, but I cheat here and there. Push-ups, okay, on the ring, okay, so I squeeze in whatever I can. But I definitely, as I get older, right, I have to watch what I eat, right, be cautious of it. I already have ADHD, at least that's what my daughter Jessica has described me as, categorized as. And so caffeine is not good on my diet. But I think that really when you have that, I think that's you can multitask. So and I have so many mirrors in the back that when I'm working with little Johnny, I can see Jorge on the other side, and I'm yelling at Jorge as I'm working with Johnny, and they're like, "What? How can she see me?" And the adults are the same way.
Sure.
I'm doing this with holding with somebody, and Josh, one of my little kids, teenagers, he's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, well, you can't be on the B team if you're going to be taking a break. And then they're get back on, so I'm on it, I'm on it.
The chaos of the gym or the big melting pot of everything that's going on, it can be crazy for some people, but probably just a paradise for you.
That is so true. That is so true. That is so true. 1 minute I'm on the floor. The next minute I'm at the front counter. Next minute I'm back over here. And
Yes.
we play music, the dynamics, right? Everywhere I go, I have my mouthpiece, my mic, excuse me, not my mouth, my mic. So
Yeah.
I can go to the other room, be watching my hands, and I'm like, I can hear you. I'm yelling at them, do your squats now. But I use a lot
Yeah.
more tools now. Use the bell a lot. I use a lot more tools to help me, so I'm not constantly talking. But
Yeah.
I
That's
think it's
good.
the mama image in me or the grandma image. I don't know what it is, but I don't come across intimidating. I thank them for coming and thank them for leaving too. So it's all good.
Yeah. This is great. Now get out of here. Yeah. And so you mentioned, Miss B, you do your daily walks. You talk about how blessed you are. You say you do your prayers. Can you explain a little bit just how your faith has shaped the way you teach and lead and just go about each day?
I try to pray as many times as I can during the day. I really do. I I say a rosary in the morning. I'm Catholic, so I say a rosary in the morning. I listen to the Hallow app that's really big right now. I listen to that. I'm always wanting to learn, so sometimes I don't have time to read, so I listen to podcasts. And um I feel like in the last, I don't know, 10 years maybe, I've gotten closer to my faith. I always had it. I mean, it just kind of took a back burner. And I always wanted clarity. For me to be organized, I needed to have it clear in my head. Because people with ADHD were all over the place. But I need clarity. When I have clarity, then I can move forward. I have goals. Uh, and a lot of moments that I wasn't sure how I was going to get through it. And I would pray and I'd ask him, I know you don't give me anything that I can't handle, but you're going to have to be my pillars because I can't do this by myself. And uh, I just got back into my faith. It was especially living here by myself. My kids were in San Diego. My family here were my members. And
Mm-hmm.
I connected to a priest, Father Naum. He was so cool. I was invited to mass one day by one of my members, and he said, "Oh, I'll meet you there." I'm like, "Okay," but we both went to two different churches. And I went to St. Teresa. This priest comes in. He's got a long beard. He's got a big old man bun. Got a whole bunch of bracelets. Comes in wearing sandals, all cool. And I thought, when do priests look like that? And I thought, okay, I'm game. And then he was just talking and he was funny and he was just down to earth. One of the funniest things he said is, he said, we're always changing and you got to allow yourself to change. Don't try to live in the past. Go forward. And then he made fun of women because he said, I know I'm going to make all these women mad. But he didn't care. He was from Mexico and he had a real strong accent. He goes, but I don't care. He said, why do you keep your high school picture as your profile picture on Facebook? You don't look like that. Be real, man. Be real. And I just laughed so hard. And I thought, it's time for me to really buckle down and seek the Lord. So I did. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been things are just different. If you want clarity, then you have to search it, right? You got to find out where to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask God for clarity, he's going to give it to you. It might not be what you want, right? But it's his will. It's not mine. And I'm not very patient. I like things done fast, So I've learned to be extremely patient.
Mm-hmm.
And just like doing this podcast, I was like, all stressed all week. Oh my gosh, I better make sure how am I going to, how am I going to fix my hair? Whatever. But I just, I think we all have to have faith in your ability. I'm not sure if you can see it, but let me see here. That one says, your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God.
Mm.
And I think we all have a gift. How we
Yeah.
use it is up to us. So, anyways, that's just getting a little
That
deep
truly
there.
No, I love that, Miss B. I love that. I love that so much. And that truly says it all. Yeah, you brought up so many points that I know I resonated with all of that. I grew up in a Catholic family, and that was something for me is I look back at my religious upbringing as very positive one. I had good examples. I had a good church, a good community. But I think as I got into adulthood, I think I just had questions, and Gavin and I have lived in multiple places. And as you know, moving to and exploring different churches, it takes a while to kind of figure out which one feels right. And you kind of have to trust the process. And luckily, in every place that we've lived, I've stepped into some amazing churches. And there's always just this sense of positivity and people that are going in there with maybe questions or looking for answers or community or whatever it may be, but with still a common ground or reason why we're all there, in the end is to build on their spirituality in some way, shape, or form. And it wasn't until this last year where I kind of had a very similar experience that you had is, stepped into a place and I had tried maybe 4 or 5 different churches and all of them were wonderful. But stepped into the place that we go to now regularly. And it was one of those where very casual pastor. And it was one of these individuals where I thought, these guys they are human, just like us, and I think Catholicism can be very traditional. And so, yeah, finding a space and an environment where you feel like you can leave your church or the message that day feeling like, okay, I actually understood what this person was trying to say. And they're able to relate the message or biblical verses to where you actually understand it and have this, something that you can take from it and continue to be better. Because ultimately, that's what God wants, right? Is He, like you said, and like it is in your room, is He has given us all talents and gifts and skills and challenges along the way. And it's up to us to overcome and to trust in the story that He ultimately is the author to. And so,
yeah, amen.
whether it's in our timing and as much as we want certain things to fall into place, we got to trust the process and know that He's working in great ways.
Yeah. I remember I went to a non-denominational church and I went by myself and I saw some of my members there and it's, very different. It's like an auditorium. And I went in there and I sat down and then boom, the music. I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, it's pretty cool. Oh yeah. Having a great time and stuff. And I loved it. It was great. But I felt like I was going to a concert and I still felt a little emptiness. But I hopped around different types of churches and stuff. And, the good Lord knew that I needed to experience that to
and I think that's the beauty about different avenues or wings of religion, no matter what somebody is, whether it's Lutheran, Catholic, non-denominational, it doesn't matter. I think I've really grown to love people's love for religion and their God. Yeah. And no matter how they praise it or practice it, it's just such a magical thing in people's lives. And it can really drive people to just be better people. And ultimately, I think that's what God wants is a good world with good people. So, yeah, that's amazing. And so
I was just going to say, so what is the saying? If they're not against me, then they're for me. So I remember that all the time. Okay. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I like it. So you poured into your community, whether it be through the Lubbock Boxing Club, West Texas Association, your church. So what drives your passion just to continue to build people up both in and out of the gym? Because it seems like no matter what avenue you're in, you're all about building people up. So
I think it's the teaching. I like teaching. I like teaching. Maybe that's the nurturing side of me. I'm not too sure. Somebody comes in with a bad back. Oh, have you gone to the chiropractor? Do you ever go see the acupuncturist? I'm just like trying to help them. But I think it is my passion of teaching. I love being my own boss for sure.
Yeah.
I love it. If it doesn't succeed, it's on me. It's on me. So the challenge is within me. But the same thing is in teaching. If they're not getting it, that's on me. So I think it's just the teaching aspect of it.
Yeah.
I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have mentors or anything like that. And I feel like people come to me to learn a skill, right? For whatever reason, self-defense, competition, or just feel better about themselves, whatever. But they're coming to us. They're coming to the gym, and I want them to walk away knowing that they learned something. That's like really important to me.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then I need to how could I have done this better? So,
Sure.
yeah.
Amazing. And so we are getting
Yeah.
into the fall and winter season. And so outside of martial arts, for those that don't know, Miss B is a decorating queen when it comes to holidays. And so you may even call her a decorating guru. But I have to ask Miss B, how did this
Yeah.
even come about? And is this something that you've always had like a little knack for, or?
When I was a little girl, I would sit and watch the soap operas with my mom. And the soap operas, it was all decorated beautifully, right? And we were poor. We couldn't afford other than those cheap plastic things you put on the wall or whatever. And I remember to myself, when I get older, I'm going to decorate and my kids are going to remember this and I'm going to create memories. And I, to this day, love to decorate. And my
Mhm.
kids are not here, but I have kids in the gym. So I decorate for them and I decorate for myself. And yeah,
Mhm.
I'm just, I'm just all over the place. Yeah.
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 What
I'm
are some
just
of
all
your
over the
favorite
place.
traditions around the holidays? Is there any decorating traditions or just specific traditions outside of decorating that are meaningful to you?
I go through different themes. We're always changing, so we're a different person every season. At least that's what I believe. And I couldn't understand why, if I changed the decor in the restroom or in the bedroom, why I just couldn't leave it that way. Why can't you just leave it like that? Leave it like that for a couple of years. Nope. Time to change. Time to rearrange it. Oh, we need new colors. Curtains don't match, and we got to do this. And then I feel, okay, because that's who I am. I'm a different person, right? So in the holidays, I'm like that too. I go with the theme. I don't decorate my house as much as I used to, but I decorate both places. I decorate the gym and I decorate the house, right? One of the bedrooms is always the Grinch. The other bedroom is rustic, like the whole Western type thing. The other one is all like peppermints or candy canes or whatever. I had a tree that was all nativity. Everything was nativity. I just go different themes. And then I take everything out of the room. I put everything away and then I put a ball. I have so many Santas, it's not even funny. I love it, right? And then at the gym, it's all decorated with the red and black, with the gym's colors. And then I have a red, white, and blue tree. And then I have a Mexican tree for the Mexican boxers. And then
That's cool.
I'm just, I'm just all over the place. But I'm
Yeah,
very thrifty. People don't know that I'm very thrifty. So
that's the
if I'm out
best.
at a flea market or the garage sale, I'm seeing, well, I wonder if I paint this, what could I put on there? So that's where
Yeah,
I get my unique decor. But yeah, I just go with the theme. I just go with
yeah.
it. I don't know.
And that
Uh,
perfectly leads me
yeah.
into talking about because you're a certified feng shui consultant. So, can you one
Yes.
explain to the listeners what that is and just what the certification process or training like that is for?
Feng Shui means wind and water. When you can't see the wind, but it exists, right? And then there's the water. So there's just a balance. And we know that balance. Like if you drink your coffee and it's too hot, what do you say? Oh, I gotta wait till it cools down, right? Or if you go outside, it's too cold. Oh, I gotta go back in the house and get something warm. So we gotta have a balance, right? So Feng Shui is a Chinese art of furniture placement. And there's different types of it. I did forms feng shui in San Diego. So I got certified through Western feng shui. It's a forms feng shui. And meaning that let's say your house is facing east and the door is facing east, right? And then the traditional feng shui, they're going to go the compass. They're going to tell you, oh no, you need to move the door over here or don't buy this house because this is not the right. Well, sometimes you can't change a door.
Right.
Hello, just can't. So you just, with the furniture that one has, then you just make suggestions on how to move furniture around to create balance and harmony. So if you go to a friend's house, let's just say, and it's just her and her husband, and you go in and there's a glass table, and then there's glass end tables, and then there's big, beautiful art structure. And you're like, oh my gosh, don't touch it. You're like, Gavin, don't get close to that. Don't get, if we break it, that's it. And you're so uncomfortable. That's bad feng shui. That just is. But then You go to someone's house and it's laid out in a certain way that's so comfortable, you just wanna chill, you just wanna hang
Mhm.
out, that's good Feng Shui. That's it, and there's
Mhm.
the balance. Your body knows it, and in Feng Shui, it says that everything's connected, so we are always changing. You're not the same Kaylee that you were when you were in Seattle or when you were here
Mhm.
in Texas, I mean, in Lubbock, and you're just allowing yourself to change. People keep old dresses and clothes that, "Oh, I'm gonna fit in that pretty soon." And then when they see it, they think, "Oh, I'll never get in that." And then they get depressed. So you know what? Get rid of it and you won't be depressed.
Mm.
You have
Yeah.
to constantly be changing. And that's really important. Uh, in everything at your work, in your life, everything's
Mhm.
connected. Finances are the
Yeah.
same way. So, but I
Yeah.
got certified through Terra Collins. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So I got to feng shui some businesses up there and our business. And then when I came out here, everything is set in a certain spot because it's meant to be there. It's how you connect to it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well, and I think that's a
yeah.
really good point because we do preach you got to be accepting of change. We're always changing all the time. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
us think about being mentally accepting of that change, but it can be kind of hard to be mentally accepting if our environment isn't supporting that. And so I think you bring up a very valid point. And I'm over here thinking like, oh man, I have a lot of changes that I need to make in my house and in my closet. I mean, really, I can very
Yeah.
much relate to that um, I love the idea of change. It's inevitable. Whether you like it or not, all of us are changing. And so that is cool for
Yeah.
any of us to think about. Am I setting myself up for success in the space that I'm in constantly, whether it's at work, in my car, at home, in some of these spaces, in my training environment, in my friends, family, all of that. So, yeah, very, very, very good points you bring up.
Like, are you still doing jujitsu? Are you still pretty okay? So let's say you hurt your ankle, right? And let's pretend, okay, and you have it wrapped up, and you're still there, but you're still thinking about it, right? You're still thinking about it, so you can't perform 110%. You just can't because you're so worried. So what do you need to do? You need to get it fixed. Well, that's feng shui in yourself. Get it fixed so you
Hmm.
can be that person to succeed. You know,
Right.
well, you can complain all you want. Oh, my finances are really bad, whatever, whatever, whatever. But okay, have you ever purged your bank account? Have you ever cleared out your office? Have you ever, because all of that is related. A lot of people laugh at this one. I had feng shuied a house and I had to do it as a community service type thing. And I did a family and they were the couple's having marital problems. And, she's like, I'm going to get a divorce. And I'm like, whoa, 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 what's going on? Anyway, so I went to her house, this beautiful mansion in California. And, and I walked in and I'm like, oh, who are all these pictures? Oh, I don't know. These are my husband's friends. I don't have any idea who they were. I said, oh, okay. And then she had these beautiful canvas paintings, big, they were huge. And I said, "Oh my God, what?" I saw one there, and then I saw one over there, and then they had another one in the bedroom. And I said, "Wow, these are." They were like abstract paintings. I had asked her. I said, "Oh, what are those?" And she said, "I said, no. Where did you get those? How do you feel about those?" And she said, they're my husband's ex-wife's. He got this in the divorce." And I said, "Oh, okay, okay." So every time she connected to those things, there was anger and she was frustrated. And her biggest complaint was that the ex-wife was always there all the time.
Mm.
So we went through all the rooms and looked around, and then I said, you're complaining about the ex-wife, but you brought her into the bedroom when you brought in that painting. Every time you look at her, every time you look at that, you look at her. So you want to fix this, then clear it out, purge, and bring yourself into this.
Mhm.
And it was just things like that,
Mhm.
and that's really important for who we are, especially, we women tend to be real sentimental and we want to keep every little bitty thing. So and so gave it to me.
Sure. Emotionally
Sure.
connected to all the trinkets.
Right. So At some point, you say, I'm not connected to this anymore. I think I'm going to give it away in good faith. Somebody's going to embrace it. So I have no
Yeah.
problems getting rid of stuff. I have none because I buy new stuff.
Yeah.
Because I buy new stuff.
Yeah. Because of the garage sales and the thrift stores, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. My husband will say, what did you bring home this time? You're not going to believe this. But it's all good. Yeah. It's all good. So, anyways, that's how
So
the
it,
whole decorating came about, and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. And so when Gavin and I were training in Lubbock, you were still at your old location for the Lubbock Boxing Club. So tell us about your new spot now and what it was like upgrading and creating your own feng shui in that space.
I wasn't planning on moving. It was time for me to renew my lease, 15 years, right? And I said, can you just give me carpet and fix the lights? That's all I needed. Well, if we do the carpet, your rent's going to go up again. And it was already going to go up anyway. And I said, well, work with me, work with me. I'll sign a lease longer lease, just work with me on here. Well, I'm not sure if we can do that. And it had been like on his third buyer for that property. So then I thought, maybe it's just time for me to move. So I gave them, this is how organized I think I am, but I gave them 6 months. And I said, I'm thinking about renewing, but I really want to work out a deal about I need better carpeting and better padding, because the kickboxing program was pretty big, getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And, I gave them 6 months in advance notice for them to work with me. And when they weren't moving as fast as I would like them, because I want things done right away, but I started looking for buildings, and then I got a little frustrated because I needed something bigger, but I needed to have, like good access for everybody, and uh, just better view. And then I remember getting so frustrated, and I was praying. I was driving, and I said, all right, God, if I'm not supposed to move, you tell me and I won't move. But you know what? If I need to move, you got to give me a sign. I don't know where to go. I said, I'm going to leave it in your hands. I said, whatever, just whatever. I'm okay. Right. And then the next day I got a call from a realtor. She's so sweet. And she called to tell me, hey, this just came up. And I said, okay. She goes, it's on 19th. It's 6209 17th Street, Suite 100. And I said, well, that sounds familiar. Why does that sound familiar? Well, I live on 18th, and it's 6207. No, I'm sorry, 6220. What is my address? I can't even think right now. But 19th is here. The building is here. 19th is here. Freddy's Steak Burger's right there. And I live right behind Freddy's Steak Burger. I could just
Wow.
walk. I could just,
Oh,
walk across the street. Yeah, I just walk straight across, right across. So, and I looked, and it just had little bitty windows. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. No. She goes, go and look. And I said, okay. So it was a mechanic shop, and it was a motorcycle shop. And it's an L shape. It's what I had before was 5,000 square feet. I think this one's 5,700. So it's an L shape. And I have a lot more bags. I have 2 full-size rings. One if you look at it, it just looks small, but it continues to the side. And then there's an outdoor private parking lot we call the bullpen. So my landlord is awesome. He is so great. I met him. His name's Tim Larson. He's such a good man. We were talking, and rent was so much cheaper, thank God. But I had to do a lot of the construction work myself. And that was kind of scary because I didn't know how much. But I was a good saver. I had money in the business account and savings that I was able to get this place. He worked with me on the price. And then when I told my old landlord, I said, hey, I'm going to do this. And I said, I'm 98% sure, oh, well, why don't we just give you 2,000 extra square feet? We'll cut down that bar that was right next to us. He says, and, we'll just charge you the same rate. I'm like, why didn't you do that before? I would have done it, but he didn't. No, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm just done. So it was time. It's time for me to
Yeah.
leave. And so we've been here. The other place, we were there 15 years. This one, we're going on a little over 2 years. But it's great. Right on 19th
Yeah.
Street. It is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited for you guys. That's awesome. It seems like a great space. I've obviously just seen through pictures online, but next time we're in Lubbock, I'd love to swing by and actually check out the place, Miss B, because it does. I saw
Yeah.
all the work and from the photos of when you guys got started going through the construction process and everything. And so I know that that was probably quite the project. And so to see it grow into what it is now and that you guys are settled in and back in the groove of everything, I'm super happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely have a lot more stuff of decor.
Who would have
I
thought?
have a blank wall. Yeah. I have a blank wall. Let me see what I can put up. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But you'll love it, Kaylee. Once you see it, you and Gavin, you'll love it. So
Yeah.
I'm
Well, while we're
very
on the
blessed.
topic of growing and progression, can you share the details of your new consulting project that you have in the works? I know you're not completely finalized yet, but can you give us a little bit of the details?
Yes, yes. In 2020, 21, USA Boxing had some national events here. And I was a host gym. So that means that other gyms can come and train at your gym, pairing to compete, like sparring or whatever. And I had so many people, so many gyms. Now, I can honestly say that um, I think I met two female owners, maybe. The rest were all male owners of the gyms. And they were like amazed. They were, God, this is like a museum. There was a gentleman named John Brown. He was the original owner of Ringside. He's the one who developed the hand wraps, the Velcro hand wrap. He was an
Mm-hmm.
older gentleman, and he came in. He came in, and he was parked outside, and we were closing up because I was tight because it's a week-long event, and I had so many people, they just weren't leaving. I'd had to be there by 7 so people could use the gym, and then they weren't leaving till 10. So I was
Mm-hmm.
exhausted. But anyway, I was leaving, and he said to me one time, he goes, "Oh, I'll make it worth your while." And I'm like, "Okay." He's an older gentleman, older man. He just wants to look. And I'm like, "Okay, come on in. Come on in. No worries." And then he took forever. He went all the way around and looking at every single thing. And then he looked familiar, and the name sounded familiar, and then I didn't understand why. But then he says, "Well, my name's John Burrow." I said, "Why do I know that name?" Well, he was the president for USA Boxing a long time ago.
Mm.
But he was also the founder of Ringside. So we get to talking, right? And he had said, "If I hire you, will you go to, I think he's out of Kansas, will you go to my facility and help me decorate the gym?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Yeah." He goes, "Okay." And then that was one thing that was in my ear. And then
Yeah.
other people ask me, like, "Well, how did you do this?" "Oh, you just got to do this." "Well, how do you keep it so clean?" "Well, get everything off the ground." Like little stuff that I knew that were big because they just couldn't do it. And then so I started planting that, and that seed was starting to get watered. And then I had 2 years ago, I had a guy from San Bernardino, I think San Bernardino. And him and his coaches were there, and he was just picking my brain, like boom, 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 boom. And then he called his coaches, and then we were talking, and he said, "I will," he said, "Tell me when you can fly to San Bernardino. I will fly you to San Bernardino." I want to say San Bernardino. I could be Santa Barbara, but he goes, "And you help me set up the gym, and you help me." I'm like, "Sure, sure, sure, I'll do it." But I was not prepared, and I didn't know how to charge, and I didn't know how to separate what was what, because he wanted to learn how to decorate the gym. He wanted to know how to do curriculum. He wanted to do the business. And I said, I'm a for-profit business, but for you, because he was getting a lot of money from the schools, and like a lot, like thousands and thousands a month. And he couldn't control the amount of kids in the classes. There was no separation. He couldn't retain them. And then he had different coaches teaching different things. And I'm like, well, it's like school. You got to tell them what you want them to teach, and then you got to separate the age groups. So,
Mm-hmm.
he took my schedule, he took some of the flyers, and then I thought, I could probably teach people how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I decided. And it's been an ongoing project, probably for about 2 years, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty much down to the grind of it. I mean, part of the
Yeah.
knowing Feng Shui is the designing, is knowing how to help them do that, and the curriculum is how you retain them.
Mhm.
The ropes is the business side. So yeah, I just thought it was. I'd like to do it. I would like to, provide that service for them. Of course, I'm gonna get paid
Mhm.
for it, but because there's a lot of information in my head, and I can share it with
Yes.
them. So
Yeah,
that's
so
my
it's
new
kind of
project.
this is gonna be kind of like a consulting service pretty much, broken up into 3 parts. I'm just kinda summarizing a little bit, Miss B. One, and
Yeah.
I know you were kind of talking through different names of each of these 3 parts, but one of them is it still gonna be called In Your Corner Designs?
Yes.
The designing part of it. Okay. So that's kind of talking about gym
Yeah.
layout, design, and why that's so important in terms of for both the members and the owners and employees. The second part is
Correct.
building champions. Is that the name of the second part for member retention?
That's gonna be yes. It's building champs and community, because
Love it.
everybody's a champ. Everybody's a champ in whatever they do. It's not just like hardcore national champion. No, we're all champs coming in here, but we're developing that community. So it'll say
I
building
love it.
champs and community.
I love it. I love it. And then the last one is we'll show you the ropes. Is that
Yes,
what
that's
it's
the financial part of it.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
And so that's more of business lessons and things that can be essential in terms of owning and operating your own gym. So when is this going to kind of launch, or what are you hoping from this? Just from word of mouth? Are you going to put this on the website? How do people reach out if they're like, "Hey, I got to talk to Miss B and get the works of this."
Well, I for sure will have it before the first week of December, because Nationals, USA Boxing is holding Nationals again. And this will be our final year in Lubbock. And I have a lot of people coming through here. So I know a lot of people now. It's so great to see people from Hawaii, people from Philly, people from Florida, just so many people. And I'm going to have that flyer and I'm going to pass it out. And I'll work with them. I'm not, outrageous. I know it's hard for these gyms to,
It's
because
a
a lot of them are
grind.
part-time gyms. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're part-time gyms. And they're regular jobs, right? And then this is my full-time. This is my business. So I'm going to share that with them, and I'm going to put it on the website and on social media for sure. And I'm just going to word of mouth. I think will spread. You know,
Yeah.
I am I am looking to uh I think that'll be my not my retirement job, but because you never retire, you know what I mean? But I work a lot of hours, 10, 12, 14-hour days. But even on my day off, which I just incorporated that about 2 months ago, I'm still here. I'm like, what are y'all doing? What what are y'all doing even on my day off? But
Yeah.
I think the hours are hard for me. Um but I love what I do, so how can you get mad at that?
Right.
I don't know how to balance that. I just don't know.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to be I'm a consultant, and be able to teach, to continue teaching.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I'm really excited, but I got to have it done by December so I can pass out the information to all the gyms, and then I'm going to follow up with USA Boxing, see if I could like connect with them somehow to add that in there.
Yeah.
They know me I mean, they know me because I'm always calling them. Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'll incorporate it that way.
I love
Yeah.
it. Well, and those listening, I know this is going to come out in a few weeks after we record, but for those listening that currently own a gym, are looking into starting something up, Miss B's your person, and so I'll make sure to link all of her information down in the show notes. We'll talk about how you can follow along, get connected with her, but she is going to be a huge mentor for you and just work through the nitty gritty of gym ownership, member retention, and just the beauty and joy of starting something up or carrying it through and building upon a martial arts gym, because it's, as we know, it's a pretty amazing community, and great to be interconnected with. And so fully support you, Miss B, and I know that you're gonna do wonders spreading your knowledge, so I'm super excited. It sounds like a project right up your alley. So
I'm excited too. When I had my first, I have to share this because this is so cool too. my first boxing event. I had a doctor come in. He was the volunteer for the fights, and one of his friends came with him. And I met him. He was a very nice man. And then he comes back. That friend comes back 3 years later, and I couldn't remember him. And then when he said, "Oh, I'm Dr. Key's friend," and I'm like, "Oh, yes, I remember you now." He goes, "Yeah, I just wanted to see if you were still in business." And I said, "Well, why wouldn't I be?" And he he said, "Oh no, I did." I said, "Why wouldn't I be in business?" And I made a joke of it. And I
Hmm.
thought, you know what? Come back in 5 years, come back in 10 years. And you know
Yeah.
what? Come back in 20 years and I will, so there's every little bitty, the little challenges all the time. You know what I mean?
Yes. That just makes
I
me think
remember
of
that.
the little chip on your shoulder from your 5-year-old out at recess. And it's like that little girl is still that right there in you. And so always ready to prove people wrong and to step up and show what you're made of. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for
Good.
sure.
Well, let's transition into family because I know that that's a huge part of who you are. And so you're a proud wife, mother, grandmother, and believe it or not, I know those listening and watching, she is even a great grandmother. So can you just explain the impact martial arts has had on your family and as you've grown through various chapters of your lives?
You know, um, my kids have all gone through martial arts, Kempo karate, kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, jujitsu, MMA. They don't know how to play football, but they know martial arts.
Yeah.
Josh, my oldest, is in San Diego, and he's got the Rock and Sock'em Club. So he's teaching boxing out of 10th Planet San Diego. He's doing great things there. And my daughter is teaching boxing, kickboxing, karate. No, I don't think she's doing the boxing, but she's doing karate and maybe kickboxing or something. And she's a self-contractor. She's working for one of the schools. So she's doing her own thing there too. And then Jordan is in Thailand. He fights for karate combat, under karate combat. And he's been in Thailand now for 2 months. He'll be there about a year. I think he said he's got an upcoming fight, but he was asked to fight under their gym in, I think it's pronounced Phuket. And
Yeah.
so he had trained there twice before and then came back. And then this time he came back and told us that they wanted him to fight under their gym. So sure enough, he's there. He's going to be flying back and forth to teach. So he's going to be traveling to Orlando, Florida, to teach classes there too, and then fly back to Thailand. So my adult kids, this is what they know. But part of knowing this is martial arts is a way of life. And it, it teaches you discipline, respect, but it's just a way of life. It's how you treat people, how you want to be treated, all these things. And they all have great personalities. They're all out there and they all have the loudest laughs. And I don't know who they take after on that one, but
Hmm.
loud. And especially Josh, his laugh is so contagious. But they love people. They love what they do and they all love to teach.
Mm-hmm.
My grandkids didn't really grow up in that field, in that school environment, that karate school environment, but they're their individual person. I think that us having that background, that we're a lot more patient with them, and they know right from wrong. That's just part of the upbringing. But I wish they would have been more involved in the martial
Mm-hmm.
arts. I think that if I hadn't have moved here, I probably would have had them all in the karate school, taking the
Yeah.
classes, working, cleaning. But, I wasn't theirs. But I have an open door for them. They can come visit. They can come live with me for a little bit, but they're going to have to work here because nothing's free.
Right.
But family is very important.
Yeah.
I don't care if you have issues with each other, you fix it because family is important. Yeah. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And as your kids have kind of followed in your footsteps, but also clearly have developed their own paths. They're all doing something very individualized to them and making their own mark in the martial arts world, which is amazing. What are some of the lessons that you've tried to pass down or instill in them?
You are responsible for your own actions. And it's like a bell test. You want to pass it, then you have to train for it. You want to succeed in life? Okay, well, how are you going to get there? There's a dream and there's a goal. For me, I think a dream is it's not like realistic. It's just out there, But a goal is different. A goal is like, okay, make it happen, right? So I think of it as a goal. You want to be financially stable? Okay, well, that's your goal, right? Now have a plan and then execute that plan, and then there's your goal.
Mhm.
So I I I want them to understand that. I want them to learn from that. I want them to, but sometimes life's lessons, life experiences are the best lessons. And I can't teach
Mhm.
that. I can't teach. I just leave it
Yeah.
in God's hands. But when they have something that they want to share with me and that something's happening and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that happened. It's bad, but what are you going to learn from it? Learn from this. You got to learn something from it and go forward. Don't live in the past. So
Yeah.
martial arts teaches that. I think any sport can really teach that. You
Absolutely.
know,
Yeah,
I
for sure.
think so.
Yeah. And so clearly family has shaped your own martial arts journey. So I'm just curious, what are some of the things that you've learned individually from each of your kids? What have they taught you? Mhm.
Okay. So, um, I'm a different parent to each one of them. I'm not a
Sure.
parent to all of them, as each one is different, right?
Yes.
So I knew that with Josh, I could be firm with my words, and he would like, "Oh my gosh, mom's mad at me," right? My daughter, I could spank her. You need to behave. You need to behave. And it didn't mean anything to her. With Jordan, I'm like, Jordan had no fear. He had no fear. So I had to bring in fear to him. So I'm a parent to each one because each one is separate. But I have definitely learned the same thing from all of them, and that is to be patient. Is to
Mm,
be patient with all of them. And I make it a point to talk to them differently because that's how they learn. I try not to. I try not to be their best friend sometimes. I try not to be their mother sometimes. Sometimes I just got to listen. I have to ask them, are you talking to mom or are you talking to a friend? Because you got to let me know which way I need to respond.
mm,
Mom, I just want you to listen. Okay, all right.
mm.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
but me, I'm just thinking, get over it. Life is hard, just keep going. I've learned from all of them that I have got to be patient and
absolutely.
I have no choice.
Yeah.
I have no choice. I just got to be patient and smile and laugh,
Yeah.
bring laughter because that's a requirement in our house. We got to laugh. Got to
Mhm.
laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's truly, and have gotten a sliver every once in a while getting to see you interact with your kids at various levels when you're all together or just individually through the gym. And it is such a special thing that I think you guys have. There's definitely a whole lot of love and camaraderie, and that's amazing because I think sometimes families aren't as fortunate to have that. I feel very fortunate and blessed myself. My family is very strong and they're just so much of my life. And so when you get to be around
That's
siblings
beautiful.
or parents where you just feel so connected and that it's just a joy. It's just fun to be around
Yeah.
them, right? It really is just like a good time. It's amazing. And I really feel like I saw that with you and your kids, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you got to see on Instagram. There was a social media thing with me and Jordan when he was interviewing me,
Yes.
and he was asking all these questions. And oh my gosh! And I said, "Well, son, can you write down the questions so I'll be focused?" No, mom. He goes, "We're just gonna wing it."
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I'm down for it, And we laughed so hard. Oh my gosh. I was crying. Anyways, and then
Yes.
this morning when I was talking to him, he called me from Thailand and everything we said, we were laughing. And then his girlfriend said, you guys should do a podcast of you two together. And I said, we wouldn't be talking. We would just be laughing. He said, no, it's all
Yes.
right. We're all good, but yeah, but it's funny. I love humor. I love it.
Yes.
It's so beautiful, So
It's medicinal. It helps you. It just feels good,
medicinal,
feeling good.
perfect word.
Yeah.
Yeah, medicinal, right? So
Very
yeah.
good. So, after 48 years in martial arts, if you could go back and give your 15-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
You're not all what you think you are. I think I would embrace it all more, like slow things down and just embrace it. You know, when we're young, we're just like, go, nothing can happen. And life was very different back then, just very different. But I would probably tell myself, slow down and embrace what you're doing right now. I think that would
Mm-hmm.
be the biggest. And take lots of pictures.
Yeah.
Take pictures so we can reminisce. There weren't very many pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
I think that would be it,
15-year-old Rosie saw a glimpse into the future, what do you think that she would think now?
If I was 15 years old and could see myself now,
Yeah.
I would think, man, you're badass, is what I would think. Yeah.
Mission
Yeah.
accomplished. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I would
I love it.
hope you can use that. I hope you can
You
use that, but yeah.
very much can. That might be like a quote in your title for this episode.
Yeah, that would be so cool. You know what? I've never even thought about that. So those are great questions, Kaylee. Those are great questions because,
Yeah.
yeah,
You've lived a good life, Miss B, and you got a lot of really great life ahead of you, and so it's pretty cool. And I feel super excited for you and for people that are going to stay connected with you because I think you've got a lot of really great wisdom and knowledge to share with individuals, not just within the gym, but within your consulting, within family, friends, and just people that interact with you. And so, yeah, you're a blessing. And so I appreciate you.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you with me. I think that was, I was telling the kids, I'm going to be on a podcast. I'm just like so excited. And, and then, I was telling my husband, I said, well, don't call me. Don't do anything because I'm going to be talking. Don't bother me. Anyways, I was so excited. I've never had this other than people come in and interview me for school or whatever.
Right,
But
right.
I'm honored. I was so honored that you would even. I hope that when women, for sure, that they see this,
Realize that they
if
can
they're
be badass themselves.
yeah, just show up for work and do it. Have a plan, have a plan, you execute it. And if you need help, call me. And just for a chit chat, if I need to motivate you or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd have a lot more stronger women than we have. I've gone through a lot of things, and a big one too was that my first marriage was not the best. There was some domestic violence in there, and I remember that when I started fighting back, that's when I said, "Okay, this is it. I can't see the kids live like that." So
Mm-hmm.
I took it upon myself, moved from Lubbock to San Diego, not knowing anybody other than a couple of people, but you know, I, I've been through it. I've been through a lot. When people say that, oh, I can't do it because of this, no, I call bullshit on you because that's not, you can do it. Don't ever think you
Yeah,
can't do it. Never. It can be done. So,
absolutely. I love that.
yeah.
Well, I think this is a perfect time to wrap up. And so there's two questions that I always finish off every episode with. And so the first question is, what's something you wish didn't have as much of a grip on you in your life?
I think my finances, if I would have known more about my finances, how to really manage my funds. They don't teach that in school. I wish I would have I had that type of background, like learning how to save and learning how to budget. I was never taught that. I had to learn. I had to find ways to learn. Following Dave Ramsey, reading books and stuff. And I'm very proud, and not that I'm bragging on this, but I'm debt free. Own my house, my vehicles, everything, my business, but it doesn't come to you. You gotta learn how to do stuff like
Mm-hmm.
this. So I think my finances would have, if I would have known how to budget, that would have really helped. But you
Mm-hmm.
know, I know now. So
Yeah.
I know now.
Yeah. And the
So
financial stressors is a real thing I think everybody can relate to is a lot of things come down to
right.
money. So good.
And managing.
Yeah, the process behind how to manage it and save.
Hmm. Hmm.
Good. Last question is what's something you wish you had more of a grip on in your life?
Like physical, just anything in general.
Anything. It can be physical, mental, spiritual, anything that you wish you had more of a grip on in your life.
I would definitely say spiritual. I'm a very emotional person anyway. I think that's just in my genes, I think. I don't know. But I'm just very emotional. Combine that with being spiritual, there is a lot of crying involved, a lot of emotions. And I wish I would have been stronger in my faith. I think I wouldn't have been so emotional throughout my life. I think, well, I believe it for sure. People that have their act together are usually really strong spiritually.
Yeah.
So I think that would have really, really, truly would have helped. Yes.
Yeah. Very good. All right, Miss B. Anything else that you want to share that you're excited about, that you want the people to know? Uh, anything else? Final words?
No, I'm just, I definitely want to thank you for doing this. I've never had a woman come and try to interview me. They've always been guys. So, I think that is more, in my perspective, it is more, I think it's more memorable. I think it's more honorable. I deal with a lot of men through the association with USA Boxing. I deal with a lot of men like that, and they have to tolerate me. But you don't. You're a woman. You don't have to. And but you choose to reach out to me, and I think that is, I will respect that so much more than just having somebody call me and want to be I just want to thank you so much. If you were here, I'd give you a big old hug. And
Absolutely.
you're going to do great in all of this. I'm so happy for you. You have a beautiful
Thank you.
personality. You're easygoing. It's going to be easy. It's just going to be a piece of cake for you. So I'm very happy for you. I'm good.
Thanks.
I'm very glad that you're back in Texas. Very
Yes,
happy.
it feels good. And thanks, Miss B. I think you're a huge part. I think it's been a journey as we delve into the martial arts world, but man, it's like, well, now that we're in it, it's like I can't imagine my life without it. And I just want to thank you for being a huge part of that. Is you really showed you're a huge example to me of what a strong woman. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional. Uh,
That's okay. Me too. Me too. You don't worry about that. Me too. No. But we don't get to pat ourselves in the back a lot. And we put a lot of burden on ourselves as women. And a good way for us to prove that we are badass is on the floor, right? Right? And it helps that it helps that we have that gut instinct. When it's right, it's right. When it's not, it's not. And nobody can take that from us. I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful, and it's to be admired that you have truly found your true calling. And like I said, martial arts is a way of life, sweetie, and you've got it. You're already a black belt at what you're doing. So look at that. Look at
Gosh.
that.
Well, and it's been a learning experience. And I just think, I think for so many women out there, I think there's so much more uh, to give as far as just believing in yourself and stepping into uncomfortable
Right.
situations. And so when you can be surrounded by women who are doing just that, it is powerful. It is truly powerful. And yeah, I just think you've not only impacted my life in ways that you don't even know. There's just so many times where I think, oh, what would Miss B do? Or, I just remember certain interactions of how you would build others up, whether it was a kid, a full grown, 50-year-old adult, making a huge impact no matter what realm you go into. And so, yeah, I just appreciate you, and you've been a blessing in my life. And I know that you've been a blessing in so many others. And so, I just appreciate you, coming on. And for not being on a podcast. You've just been the best guest. And so I truly appreciate it because it has been a huge learning experience for me. And so
you'll probably have to do like a little timer for the next person. Okay, they're talking way too much. Let me clip that one. Let me clip that one because I can just go on and on and on and on and on. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I? I need to be calm. I need to be professional. I need to answer. And then I'm like, hey, Kaylee, how are you? All of a sudden, it just like all changed, But
well,
you're going to be great. You're going to be great.
And that's what I was hoping for. Is you are just the best, and I appreciate all the stories and just all the great lessons that you had to share with those that are listening. And so for everyone connected in and wants to follow along or are in the Lubbock area, please go check out the Lubbock Boxing Club. Go give Miss B a huge shout out, a fist bump or a hug, either way, but she's going to kick your butt if you join the class. So be ready for that. But please follow along. She's on Facebook at The Boxing Club. She's on Instagram at Lubbock Boxing, or you can check out their website at www.lubbocksboxingclub.com. Is that right, Miss B?
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you so much. I'm sending so much love over to you in Lubbock. And next time we are in there, I'll make sure to come and harass you.
Come and train, sweetie. Come and train.
Will do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
On your new adventure, your new business, you're going to be great, sweetie. God has a plan, and you're already on it, right?
Awesome.
Remember that,
absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Okay. And I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much, Miss B.
Alrighty, bye.
Thanks for listening to The Grip. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow along on Instagram at The Grip Pod to stay up to date on new episodes. That way you can send over a DM if you've got a question you'd like to hear answered on our roll call series. Now remember, stay sharp, be grounded, and never lose your grip. See you next time.